Welcome to Chronicles of Old Singapore. This is Dr Loh KS, and I speak to people about their memories of Singapore before it became a global city. The topic today that we're going to go into is one of the oldest Catholic girls' schools in Singapore, I believe the second one, which was set up in 1954 by a group of French sisters of the Congregation of the Holy Infant Jesus. So from that, we know the school is CHIJ. We want to dive into the memory of the CHIJ at Victoria Street before Chimes was built. So very happy to have with us today Irene Hoe, who was a student of the school. Hello, Irene. How are you?
Hi there.
Morning.
Good morning.
So you are an old girl of CHIJ with, I think, like many other alumnus, very fond memories of studying in the school. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yep, absolutely.
And
Best friend, lots of friends, and lots of very interesting memories. Not all of them particularly pleasant, but very instructive.
when was it that you were a student there?
I joined the school in 1957.
So this was before 1964 when the school had both primary and secondary levels.
Well,
So you
no,
were
I think
there.
they did have already, because my sisters were there, and they are quite a bit older than me, and they were in secondary school when I was in primary school.
Right. So I think what this means is that in 64 it's split up. There were separate
Oh, right,
premises.
right.
Right. So at the time in 57, you went in primary one.
Yes.
And the primary and the secondary levels, they're basically together in the same premises.
We were always there, and except that the secondary school was in a separate building, a bigger building, which was multi-story. The primary school essentially was this old part, very high ceiling, and very how would you say it? We were very close to the principal's office was like right there. She could walk in at any time. It's two separate principals. Yeah. And we had if I remember correctly, it was A to E. So there were the 5 classes.
We are going to jump into the buildings a bit more later on. But first,
Mhm.
how did the choice of CHIJ come about?
Actually, my mother wanted me to she tried to get me into Raffles Girls' School, which is across the street. My 2 sisters were in CHIJ. Elder sister was in St. Margaret's. And then mom decided that I should go to RGS. So, but when she tried to get me there, she was told by the principal that I was too young for some reason. I can't remember why, but that's what she told me. And then the next year she brought me back, and they said, oh, she's overage. So my mother was completely confused, but she didn't speak much English, if at all. And then she decided to go across the street to the convent. And she told the nuns that, what she did was she gave them a very uh, elaborate Nordman stereophonic system. And since stereophonic, maybe it's just a gramophone with a record player and everything, and $150, which in 1950, it would have been 56 then, would have been quite a lot of money.
That is a
And
lot of money. That's a very
yeah,
sizable donation, shall we put it that
yeah,
way?
it is. But many people did that.
Yeah.
She just wanted me because we were living in the city. We lived in Dhoby Ghaut, so it was walking distance to the school. And after that, she thought, oh, actually, it's a very good idea because my sisters were also there. And yeah, that's how it happened.
Kind of interesting, right? Your 2 sisters, their elder sisters, were already in CHIJ, and your
Yes.
mom decided against, the following them lah. What was her thinking?
I don't know if she decided against that, but she probably thought, well,
Mm.
somewhere in that area, because the restaurant that our family ran was very, very close by. It was closer to the convent than to our home. And she just wanted it in that area. She didn't the most important thing to her was that it should be an English language school, because my sisters and my brothers, all of them older than me, at least by 6 years. The last one's about 6 years older than me. They were in Chinese medium schools before that. And when the British came back after the war, my mother thought, this is, I guess what you could say is that she saw the light and she said, this is what is going to be the case. I have to take them all out of Chinese language schools and go into English medium schools. So that was what she did. So she wasn't really bothered by the religion or anything. She just, put ever. If she could have got me into MGS, she would have got me into MGS. So
Very practical in that sense. Very
very
Singaporean,
practical.
huh?
Yes.
Were you all Catholics?
No, no religion.
Hmm.
My brothers were in ACS. My brothers went to ACS.
Right. And what were the Chinese medium schools they were in previously?
Nanyang,
Okay.
Nanyang, and I don't know if the boys were also in Nanyang, because I have no idea whether Nanyang was co-ed, but the girls were all in Nanyang, and they had gone to Good Shepherd Kindergarten before that, which was interesting. I know nothing about that. And then the boys just went straight into so that's why everybody in the family is better at speaking some Chinese than I am, because I just never got it.
You don't speak Chinese in the family?
Uh, we spoke Cantonese,
Right.
and
Okay.
because of the kitchen and the staff in the restaurant, I sort of grew up in the restaurant, because I spent more hours awake of my waking hours in the restaurant than at home. And all of us worked in the restaurant at one time or the other. And the language there was basically there was some Cantonese, but it was mostly Hainanese. So I learned all the swear words and things like that. Um, there wasn't any Mandarin used in there. My mother had been a school teacher in China, and she was fluent. She was absolutely fantastic. She could speak any Chinese dialect, and she read the Chinese papers every day, and yeah, so that's where it came from. But she was very, very smart, and when she saw that the British came back, and also what happened is that before the Japanese occupation, the restaurant ran all the way through. Before the Japanese occupation, uh, everything was kind of like in a different world. And our restaurant was essentially, strangely enough, catering mainly to English speaking, or actually the British people, the army people, and the whole lot of them. And that's where my mother picked up her English. But that's, we were always that kind of family. And when the boys went, when she threw everybody into English language medium schools, they all kind of more or less had to adapt. Everybody adapted very well. I don't wish to have gone into a Chinese medium school, but I've been trying to learn Mandarin ever since, and it doesn't work, because I can't read the writing.
That's quite interesting. I didn't really catch that completely. So this was your family's business, the restaurant.
We were in the restaurant for about 30 years. The restaurant
Oh.
finally closed in 1969.
Tell me more. What is the name of the restaurant?
Stamford Café, and it had quite. I've been thinking of, well, more than thinking, but of writing a story about it, because writing a book about it, because because we were very relatively close to places like City Hall and government offices. Among our customers used to be Lee Kuan Yew, Eddie Barker, um, I think Hon Sui Sen may have been, but Lim Kim San definitely. And so I didn't get to serve them, but whenever they came, my mother would uh the security guy would there'll be one outside, and they would come in and they would check out the kitchen, and I would just be very curious about them, and then they would have like this guy standing outside occasionally outside the door of the restaurant. And my mother would say, bring him a drink. So I brought him a soft drink. He didn't want it. So I said, water, okay. So I kind of got the idea. I brought the whole jug. I mean, I was maybe about 7 or 8 years old when I first saw Lee Kuan Yew there. And I brought the whole water jug and poured it out for him and I poured it out also for the other customers before him so that he would know this wasn't directed at him and it wasn't poisonous. It was including for the customers. It's smart kid I was.
This is hold on. I was trying to find some info on this cafe.
There's not very much on it.
Stamford Café was located at Bras Basah Road. Was
Number 82.
popular with affluent expats and locals alike for Western food.
Oh, really? Where's this from?
During the mid 20th century, this is from Roots actually.
Oh,
I'll send
interesting.
you a link later on. Business was
Okay.
so good that it frequently placed ads in the Straits Times to inform customers that it was open for business. This is a maybe I should just show you the photo. So this is a piece of it is a plate, right? A porcelain plate
Yeah.
from the cafe, donated by your sister, I think, Annie.
Oh,
Annie, right? Annie Hoe.
yeah, yeah.
That's your sister.
Oh, okay. We
So-
had different ones. They were all bought from John Little's or Robinson's, and they were all made at that time made in England. And my mother was very fastidious about that it was what they call a white tablecloth restaurant.
And the address again, what was the number?
Number 82.
82 Bras Basah Road.
Yes.
This was Cantonese or Hakka Cafe. Cantonese.
No. It was Western.
I mean, your family
It was very interesting.
Cantonese lah, right?
My family is my birth father is Shanghainese. My mother is Cantonese.
Okay.
But the restaurant catered to basically the Westerners there.
Who set it up?
I guess they did. And they had a previous restaurant set up. I think it was probably in Dhoby Ghaut, called Ciro's Cafe, but it either didn't work or they just closed it down when the Japanese came. And then they set up this restaurant. So I think that the first time I remember have a memory of that place, I was about 5 years old. And I wasn't working in the restaurant then. I started working in the restaurant just before I started school. Not anything fantastic, just running errands, carrying things around, pouring water, stuff like that.
After school lah, right?
Yeah.
Right. Very interesting actually. Wish we, actually have more information on this restaurant. Was it you think, as the write-up said, quite successful?
I had a menu somewhere, but I remember quite a few things because at one point I was a terribly inquisitive child, and my mother would tell people, not in a semi-complaining but semi kind of proud way, this child always asks questions. Because one of the things I did ask her, and this was before I was in secondary school, I asked her, I said, Mom, which dish do we make is the most profitable dish? And she was astounded. Like, what on earth would this child be asking me stuff like this? Because my siblings never did. And then she said, you guess. So I thought, okay, maybe I said, oh, could it be the lobster, the grilled lobster? And she said, no. She said, sometimes if the price of lobster in the market is very high, we actually don't make money on it. But this is something the customers like. So I went to steak. Then she said, try looking at the drinks. So I looked at the drinks and I just couldn't imagine. I would say tea, coffee, whatever. And then one day she said, come, I tell you. And she took out a bag of barley from the market. Then she said, you see this? From this bag, this one bag, I can't remember the size, I can make about 70 servings of barley water. So this bag cost me about 80 cents, 70 cents. It's a pretty big bag. And then she says, so actually the slice of lemon that we put with the barley water actually it jacks up the cost much more than the barley water itself. So when I was serving tables, I used to ask people, oh, would you like to have barley water? And I'd ask them, do you want lemon with it or not? And then when they said not, I would be very pleased because we save ourselves some money. And I would just go around peddling barley water until my mother realized, hey, the kitchen is having to boil barley water 2 or 3 times during the day, especially on weekends. And she put it down to me.
How much
That
was the barley being sold for?
Oh, couldn't have been more than 50 cents, between 50 cents and $1. I mean, because we were in business for quite a long time, so the prices went up.
That's a big profit, you know. Of course, drinks are the killers, you know. That's why nowadays they want you to, charge you for plain water.
Oh man, we just went to a restaurant and they gave us, somebody asked for plain water, and she said, oh, we have this, I can't remember what, it was $5 a bottle. I mean, my mother wouldn't have done that. Our water was free with ice, or warm, whichever way you wanted it.
Who did one of your family members do the cooking?
No, we didn't do the
chef?
cooking. We had a full kitchen, lots of people, lots of assistants. I think the main kitchen easily had about 10 people working, 7 days, towards the end it was 7 days a week. In the beginning, we used to close on Mondays, at least during, the time that I was there. And in the back kitchen, there would be a few more. And yeah, so it was my mother's thing was deliver the food hot, fast, quick. Yeah.
Sounds like your mom was the one kind of running the.
Absolutely.
Right.
She was the boss.
She was the
she
boss.
was the main chef. And yeah, so it was that kind of an operation, and all of us at one time or other worked there. I think my second sister worked there the longest because she was the cashier. So it's like 7 days a week. But during the off periods after lunch, between lunch and dinner, they would let me, be the cashier occasionally. And yeah, that was quite fun.
When did the restaurant operate until?
1969.
What happened?
Well, what happened was our next door neighbors, there's a very famous, at the time, shop called Mo Chan's, which catered mostly to tourists. And they had these people were Northern Indians origin, and they had cousins. I can't remember the name of the cousins' shop, and so I think I know what it is, but I'm not sure, so I shouldn't say it. And their cousins came up to my mother and said, we heard that you bought over the shop house from the landlord, because remember this was under rent control times. So my mother bought it over because the people who owned it really wanted her to buy it over because the rent was crazy. It was like, I'm not sure whether it was about $55 or $40 a month. That was it for the upstairs and the downstairs.
Mm.
So they kept trying to get her to, you know, if she wanted to put air conditioning in it, they'll say, no lah, she'll say, I give you tea money, but they say, no, 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 you buy over the thing. So she was going to do a proper thing because she realized, hey, if I sell alcoholic drinks, which means I need air conditioning, I can make so much more money than if I just stick to what I'm doing now. So she decided, yeah, okay, she'll buy it over. But once she bought it, these people from another kind of, tourist trap store, they came and they said, we want to buy your store. Because the next door was called Mo Chan's, and they were very, very popular. They had these guys who would go out to cruise ships and get people, line up the taxis to bring the people in. And sometimes at night, they would come over and tell my mother, Auntie, we have got people coming in tonight at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Can you keep your restaurant open? Because we usually close around 10 o'clock. So my mother would say, how many? And then they would say, we guarantee you at least $200 worth of business or whatever, because a lot of the people, if they spent generously at the store, the guys would say, go over there and have a meal, anything you want. But if they didn't, they'll just say, go over, have a drink, whatever, And that was pretty good. So of course, usually that would happen when that would happen. Family, my siblings and I would be the ones, but we also had some of the guys stay over and say, okay, you want to come work tonight until this time. Don't worry, you will get a ride home. Either I take you home or you get a taxi home. So sometimes I remember one time it was a weekend. I think we actually worked at 2 o'clock in the morning because the ship was coming in and then it was going out again. So the people came in, spent their money, went home or went back to the ship, or usually came to our place to eat and have a drink, and then they would go. Yeah.
Mm. And what happened after that?
So when the next door neighbors found out,
Yeah.
they said to my mother, hey, you cannot sell your restaurant or your shop space to our competitors. And they're also our relatives. If anybody you sell to, you should sell to us. And you should give us a better price. And my mother said, you won, you bid. So that's what they did. And they took it over. And for a while, they was very, very, very prosperous with a double unit. Then later on, they moved over to that block next to adjacent to the Capitol Cinema. And there they were until eventually they went out of business and closed down.
Right. Did your mom continue to work or
No,
start a business?
no, she saw the amount. She said, okay. And it just happened that around that time, the kind of property boom. She had a good friend who said you should buy some property. So she bought an apartment in Cavenagh House, and then she got it at a discount because we have a relationship with them. And then about a year or so later, a Taiwanese guy came into Singapore wanting to settle, and they had to therefore invest in Singapore a certain amount. And I think we bought it for something like 82,000 then. And I don't know why that number sticks in my head. And then when the Taiwanese guy came, prices had escalated, and he paid my mother 195,000. This is back in the 1970s, I think, early 70s.
Mm.
So my mother she thought, okay, great. Then she bought another apartment, a bigger one and more expensive one, and she traded that. After that, she thought, no, I have enough money to last me the rest of my life. And to bring up all my children and everything, put this one through university. I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah, your mom is very enterprising, right?
Oh, very, very. She was a single mom with 6 children.
Mm.
After my birth father walked out on us, so she had to be enterprising.
Amazing. This has been a very nice little bonus. I didn't know anything about Stamford Cafe, although I think you mentioned it once in the WhatsApp.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's that row of
yeah,
shops that was adjacent to Raffles Hotel. It was very, I think that just about everybody, it was very popular. There was a dentist there. There was a bookshop called Peter Chong. Then there was Mo Chan's. There was us, and everybody prospered.
yeah. I'm going to stop you for a moment because I
Okay.
do want to go to those areas later on. Uh, I mean, it was always my intention, right, to not just talk
Mm,
about CHIJ, but what you did, your activities around the area.
yeah.
But I definitely would encourage you to, to write an article on Stafford Cafe and how it was a family business and your mom's role in it.
Well, there have been
Mm,
articles written because I don't know if you remember this when it was still the Western Hotel. One of the guys who had memories of the Stamford Cafe, he named he checked and he found out, hey, there's no copyright, on that. So he named one of the restaurants in the Western Stamford Cafe. And I can't remember who told me or told somebody who told me, like, hey, guess what? Your mother opened up a restaurant again. And I said, no, she didn't. But we went there and did a story for, I think it was the new paper because that's where I was working at the time. So that's quite fun. Yeah.
Hope you can, dig out your menu and your from your brain, right, from your mind, all those old memories, because that family history will be quite worth doing at the time.
Mm,
Anyway, let's go on now to the topic which we originally came for,
yes.
CHIJ. Let me show you the photos. Surprisingly, there are not many old photos, right, of CHIJ.
No, there are, but
There are, huh?
there are, but I had done a book on CHIJ,
Hmm.
but it was done for the old girls, when they had the convent was moving out to Toa Payoh, and they asked a bunch of girls to get this book done. So somebody gave them my name, among other, and they came to me, and then I just thought, okay, 10 years, my two sisters. Okay, right. I owe the convent something.
Hmm.
So I said, okay. I said, what's your budget? And then they said, budget? Then they said, oh, we have got money to print about 1,000 copies or something like that, or 500 copies. So I said, no budget for production of the book. No.
Hmm.
I don't know what they thought of it. But then I went to my editor and I said, can I use pictures of um, from the library for this? I'm doing it pro bono and whatever. And he said, well, so long as you do it in your free time and it doesn't interfere with the company's work, you can do it. So I did that. And I used quite a lot of the pictures from the Straits Times library. And I also got a bunch of the girls to send out pictures. So it was just, I didn't think about
Hmm.
history or whatever
Hmm.
then. It was just that we had to do this book. So the book was mostly pictures, some captions, some people's memories.
Yeah. What's the
That was it.
title of the book?
I think we just called it CHIJ.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was it.
Okay.
There was a blue cover, cloth cover, hardcover. I think the school would have a copy of it, but that was it. And they presented it at the they had I think girls a dinner.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they presented it there. Yeah.
Right.
So, oh yes,
Just your
but the thing is
memory.
that
Yeah.
what was very special about the convent was that we had what we call the orphans, and I don't even think that it was a formally constituted orphanage or anything,
Hmm.
but they used to call us the tiger. They used to call it the Tiger Girls Home because during the year of the tiger, they'd have sometimes even, more than one baby left at the door at night, sometimes with an ang pao tucked into the clothes, sometimes without. And it would just be somebody who didn't want a girl born in the year of the tiger. So a lot of, that went on. And we were all encouraged as students to go and play with them. I would do, I would sometimes kind of buy some sweets and give a few to the girls because they didn't have, anything. And once a year, we'd have a fun fair to raise funds for them. And some of them would eventually come study with us. Some of them would just be working. They would be like the cheap labor around the convent. But
Mm.
yeah, we didn't know much about it other than going there to play with them, which they very much enjoyed and we very much enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
orphanage was part of the origins of the CHIJ in Singapore, right? When it was called the town convent, it already had a number of orphans together with the
oh,
students.
I I don't know when that started, but you can see from the
1854.
buildings there were these, like this particular building.
Ah,
It was not just the convent. St. Nicholas was also there. So this is where St. Nicholas, this building was where the St. Nicholas girls were. So
oh, so this
they
one is St. Nicholas.
yeah, and
Ah, okay.
their language of instruction, and we had a separate principal, and their language of instruction was Chinese.
Chinese, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
But they also were bilingual. The girls also did English.
So this seems to be the best like front shot
Yes,
of the
yes.
convent. Do you remember this?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because that's the I would walk. I would usually, when I lived in the Dhoby Ghaut, I would usually wake up at about something like about 10 to 6 or earlier, and usually by 6:15, 6:30, I'd be there at the gate because I would arrange with my friends to go there, and then we would play games or just chit chat. And then when the nun opened the gate, usually around 6:30, we just go in and play hopscotch, play whatever, catching the whole works. And because it was a very nice area, no cars, right? So you could go and there was an area called the gallery, which separated the primary school from the secondary school. And that was also a great play area,
Right.
especially when it was raining. Yeah.
What's the gallery? It's a building.
No, it was just I don't even know why it was called a gallery.
Hmm.
It's just like a covered space where we would have assembly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then we also had a hall. We just called it the hall, and which now I guess people will call it an auditorium with a stage, and that was where the school would have things like a drama festival, things like that. And sometimes I know my sisters performed, and we had people who danced, and they performed there too. Uh,
Hmm.
and sometimes we would have a kind of an assembly there. The principal would come, or some senior nun would come and talk to us there. So and that was, it was not like an auditorium with proper seating and all that, because most of the time we just went there and we sat on the floor.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
What's going on in the photo? This is assembly.
No, I am just thinking that it um could have been somebody, could have been one of the orphans getting married, and the girls being lined up to just cheer and take a picture. I
Really?
have absolutely no idea.
Okay. Yeah. I
This
mean, the car
probably,
is coming out, right? But it doesn't
yeah,
have
the
any
car the
decoration, no?
car dates from the 19 late 40s, early 50s.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think. But
Right.
you see the girls kind of, it could have been a teacher. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to tell dates because the uniform just stayed the same.
Sure. Sure.
There are no there are no updates.
Sure. Look at the bags they're carrying.
So today's girls, they are still wearing like this. Oh yeah, we didn't carry backpacks in those days.
Yeah.
Nobody had a backpack. They were
This
all
is
these kind of cardboard or leather. Some people had leather, but mine was a cardboard that looked like leather bags with two kind of snapshot locks, and that was it. And we all carried them.
mm,
In
like
fact, I'm very surprised that this girl's bag looks so small.
it's actually standard issue, right? These are primary school girls here.
It wasn't issued by the school. We just
Mm.
went to Chinatown or
Yeah.
Bras Basah Road and bought them.
Do you remember these buildings? The gate itself?
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely, because that's where I went into school every morning.
Mm.
That was the main gate, and uh, uh, unfortunately, they didn't keep it this way. Yeah, that's too bad. But I would have taken that and put it somewhere inside so that people could take a picture, take pictures of it because uh, it's a very sentimental place. So
Yeah.
uh, you know, we used to go back and take pictures and whatever. And a lot of the girls would go back to see the teachers back then. Of
Mm.
course, all that changed when it went to Tua Payoh, and we didn't have that same feeling.
Right. When was the last time that you went to the Victoria Street premises?
Oh gosh, had to be somewhere in the 1980s. There is a record of when the move happened,
Yeah.
and I did the book then, so I had to go there, and then I also did a couple of stories for the newspaper at that about one or two stories about the convent, and with the photographer, the chief photographer uh, Philip Lim, I think, and he really took some gorgeous photographs.
Mm.
So if you want to do something on that, all you got to do is ask SPH because they haven't bothered to use it.
Yeah.
They've got lots and lots and lots of pictures, including the book. I was given a book, an album by the nuns had kept, which was really fantastic. Gave it back after the production of the book,
Mm.
but they had big size, big format pictures of the nuns from the year dot, uh, basically the principles and all that. I think it mostly ended in that photographic collection mostly ended in the 1960s.
Mm.
But it was really quite stunning because the nuns dressed differently. They wore black. I couldn't imagine how they could survive in those horribly it's like totally covered, and they had the wimple as well, so it's very hot.
Mm.
Yeah, and if they were wearing that now, man, they'd be boiling.
Who are the nuns that you remember?
Oh, um, well, my one of my favorite nuns was the one who was my Sec 4 and school, the class teacher as well as our science teacher, Sister Elizabeth.
Mm.
I the pictures of her. She died a few years ago, and she was a very, very good teacher. Um, Her name was Elizabeth Brown. Yeah, Browne. And of course, back then we just didn't know, and we used to call her Sister Lizzie. Um, she was really, really very conscientious, very good teacher. The only time she would get flustered was when she had to teach us about the birds and the bees, because that was part of the stuff that was kind of required for biology class. And I remember her face red as beetroot and facing away from us and facing the blackboard and telling us drawing. I think she drew like a frog's innards and whatever, and to to teach us about the birds and the bees, which was kind of fun. And then the principal for most of the time that I was there, or all the time I was there, in secondary school was Mother Damien. She was also wonderful and very, very strict. She was very tall, had these kind of very thick eyebrows. And if she knitted her eyebrows and looked at you, man, you got scared. Then there was another sister, Josephine, who was Chinese. I don't know what origin Sister Damien was. Sister Elizabeth was, I think, Irish. Many of the nuns were Irish. And Sister Josephine was Chinese. I liked her very much. Then there was another one who was Sister, oh gosh, Alcomendi, who we used to call her Sister at the Gate because she would preside over the second gate, which is to the right of this one, which would open up after school for people to go home, and that's where you couldn't. This main gate was too close to the traffic light, so all the people who were going to be picked up by cars would go to the other gate, which we call the small gate. Oh no, the big gate. This is the small gate. And yeah, so those are the nuns I really, really, truly remember.
Right.
And yeah.
I mean, the notion, right, of nuns and all that seems to conjure this image of, strict discipline. Was it true in your experience?
Some of them, yeah, I guess so, but we were, shall I say, we were probably more obedient back then. And we were probably more obedient with the nuns
But
than
isn't
with
it you were more
regular
obedient because they were strict?
Yeah. It's a different time. You didn't talk back generally.
Yeah.
And I think there were civilian, well, meaning not religious teachers who were in a way more strict. For instance, the Chinese teacher whom I don't know because I never studied under her, but I took Malay, and I was very glad that I was put in the class that did Malay because every time you pass by the classes that were having Chinese lessons, you would see somebody out there either like with her hands on her head, uh, doing some kind of weird position, because they were being punished for not being able to answer a question properly or something. And I just thought, wow, I am so happy that I have my Cikgu Mariam, my Cikgu Fatima, who are so nice to us, and not this Mandarin teacher.
Was there any emphasis on how girls should behave, how girls should act?
Actually, more from the not the nuns, but the others. Like I was famous for sitting any old how in my chair, and periodically a teacher would come and say, "Sit properly," and you knew what they meant.
Yeah.
And they do that whether it was recess time or whatever. They'll just say, "Sit properly," meaning don't spread your legs all over the place. And but we were pretty okay.
Was
Pretty
there
okay.
home economics in those years?
Yes. I think I took it only for 1 year, probably in secondary 1 or secondary 2, because by secondary 3, I was in science class and there was no time for home economics, even if you wanted. So there was a nice little kitchen, and we did things like the first lesson was how to make tea. And yeah, how you probably make a pot of tea, and then toast. You had how to do toast properly. And we did toast in the oven. There was no such thing as a toaster oven or a toaster back then. So you had to know how to watch the toast. And then they would teach us like, okay, then it was a nice class because you got to eat what you made. And you would put the toast and you put butter on it and then you put sugar on top. And that was very nice. And we would have, I think, but we would have a lot of the girls would go on to take other classes. Like one class that was like the Sec 3 or Sec 4 class, they made char kway teow. And I just thought, oh man, I would love to have been in that class. But I never got beyond that 1 year. That was it.
Right, right. Did you already know how to cook from your mother from the restaurant?
No, my mother did not want me to be anywhere near knives or fire.
Wow.
So I was kept up in the front of the house or right in the cold kitchen at the back. Yeah, that was it.
Right. Okay. When it comes to the like social studies and history, so you mentioned, toast and tea, but also things like char kway teow, right? So do you
Mm.
think the curriculum in those years was kind of Western centric still, or was it becoming more Malayan, more local?
The char kway teow was I know that they did fried rice,
All right.
but the basic, the requirement of that was that you're not going to get things like steak. You're not going to get a pork chop
Yeah.
or something because it's expensive to
Mm,
do. So you did things that were by and large um, very little or no meat, and you just did stuff that was cheap to do.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that
mean,
was,
right.
yeah.
And besides that, I like social studies, history. Do
Uh,
you?
no, not we didn't do anything called social studies. It was
Mm,
just very history, geography. There was
mm,
English language,
mm,
English literature,
mm,
and then there was history, geography, mathematics, and in Sec 3 and Sec 4, additional mathematics as well. So you could do two mathematics subjects, and at least one class they would do art.
yeah.
We had an art studio, and which I loved going to. The teacher there was a nun called Sister Valentine, who was totally delightful. She was always smiling and very encouraging, and when she looked at my paintings she would say, I see what you are trying to do, which was not, I was not a painter.